Please make sure to meet." A female customer said that, then turned on her heel and left. What a situation. It's hard to dismiss someone who asks so earnestly with such an expression, despite never intending to meet her in my lifetime. Maybe I should go see her, I muttered to myself while cleaning up. Then, I noticed a small handkerchief left on a chair. Is this something left behind? When I picked it up, I was surprised by what I found inside. My name is Michael, 55 years old. I run a small bar by myself. It's been almost 30 years since I opened this place. The master of the small bar my parents took me to for the first time on my 20th birthday was really cool. That was my motivation. I worked part-time at a certain bar for a few years before being independent, with a counter and a few small tables. Hiring someone means taking on their life's burdens. So I made it a place I could manage alone. I've always loved and been good at cooking since I was a child. The home-cooked flavors passed down from my mother, who was a great cook, were also well received by the customers. For the drinks, I made sure to select and offer only the best. Thanks to a good location, I've been able to own this bar for 30 years. It's Monday today. It's usually a quieter day for my bar. I take Tuesdays off. After 8 p.m., the flow of customers suddenly stopped. I was considering closing up early when the door opened. "Welcome," I greeted, and a young man peered in from the entrance. "Are you still open?" he asked me. "Yes, please choose any seat you like." I replied so, and the man looked back and said, "They're open." After talking to his companion, the man entered, followed by a woman coming in. Seeing the female customer, I was a bit startled. Her neatly trimmed bangs and shoulder-length black hair, gentle-looking big round eyes, a slender face, a straight nose, and big lips. The beauty somewhat resembled my ex-wife. I froze for a moment, which made the man tilt his head slightly. "Is it okay to sit at the counter? There are two of us." I was a bit surprised that young people preferred the counter, but of course, they were welcome. "Sure." I smiled and gestured towards the counter seats. The woman also greeted us. They had already eaten, so they just wanted some light snacks and cocktails. When I served the small dishes, they lavishly complimented them as delicious. They are good customers. Both of them were wearing matching rings that sparkled on their left hands. "Are you a married couple?" When I asked, the man shook his head and said with a smile, "We're about to be. We're currently planning our wedding." Seeing the happy couple made my heart twinge a bit. The woman spoke for the first time since entering the bar. "What do you think is the secret to a happy marriage?" Caught off guard by the sudden question, I was a bit flustered. The secret, what could it be? As I pondered, the two of them silently watched me. After some thought, I came up with an answer. "Consideration, maybe." "Consideration." The woman repeated my word. I guess I failed because I lacked consideration. When I revealed this with a wry smile, the two of them looked intently at me. "I'm divorced, you know. Must be 25 years ago now," I said with a self-deprecating tone, and the man asked, "Why did you get divorced?" I frowned, and he apologized for being intrusive. "But I want to know, including the failures. I want to make it last if possible," he said, looking slightly embarrassed and glancing at his girlfriend, which made me warm up to him. It's not really something I like to remember, but I started with that premise and began to tell my story. I opened this bar when I was 25. Initially, the novelty of a new opening brought in many customers, but it settled down after 2 years. Around that time, my ex-wife, Amy, visited the bar. It was the first time a woman had come to my bar alone, so I was a bit surprised. Amy, a beautiful woman, elegantly lifted her glass to her lips with her slender, white hand. Her movements were so graceful that I couldn't help but be captivated. She fell in love with my cooking and the fine liquor, and she became a regular customer. It didn't take long for our relationship to deepen. Working at night meant my days and nights were reversed. Amy said she didn't mind and wanted to support me. When I mentioned the hardship because the bar wasn't on track yet, she offered to work herself. We thought we could support each other and live together. That was what I believed. This situation changed after our daughter, Lisa, was born. She was a baby that cried a lot, and she had trouble sleeping at night. Amy often told me how hard and tough it was. But around the same time, the bar started to take off. The number of regulars and big spenders increased, and I was thrilled with managing the bar. After closing, I would sometimes drink with the regulars who stayed behind, not getting home until the early morning. Naturally, I would fall asleep as soon as I got home, waking up in the afternoon. Then it was time to go to work. When I came home, it was just when Lisa would wake up, and Amy would greet me with a relieved face. But I would just dive into bed. She would ask me to soothe Lisa a bit, and I would try, but I often fell asleep, defeated by sleepiness, with Lisa still crying in my arms. Gradually, Amy grew tired of me. One day, while I was managing a full house, a call came to the bar. It was from Amy. Lisa had a high fever. It was a call asking me to come home right away because she was anxious. There was no way I could leave the bar full of customers. I pleaded with her to call an ambulance or do something to get through it because I couldn't leave at the moment. I placed a full house sign outside to stop any more customers from entering and made an effort to close the bar early that day in my own way. But I couldn't get home until 10 p.m. The silence that greeted me as I entered the house, out of breath and asking if everything was okay, is unforgettable to this day. An empty apartment room. A nostalgic presence I felt when I lived alone. I quietly entered the room and turned on the living room light. On the table, there was a completed divorce form. The moment I saw it, my heart started pounding rapidly. When I picked up the divorce form, a small note fell out. The note read, "I wish you didn't have your bar." Where did I go wrong? What was the problem? I thought about going to Amy's parents' house, but it was late at night. It's a 2-hour ride by bullet train. The last train must have already left, and arriving in the middle of the night would be a bother. I spent a sleepless night and headed to Amy's parents' house first thing in the morning. With trembling hands, I pressed the intercom at Amy's family home. Eventually, Amy appeared, looking haggard. Since when had she looked like this? Her eyes were sunken, with dark circles, and her hair was thin and lackluster. There was no light in the gaze she fixed on me. I apologized sincerely. I begged her to come back, saying I would do better. But Amy's response was cold. The moment she said, "I'm tired of having expectations," I agreed to the divorce. There was no more chance for me, who had driven Amy to this point. We agreed that I would pay child support, we would not contact each other, I would not see my daughter, nor would she send me pictures. Amy looked at me with lifeless eyes. Those eyes seemed sad and resentful. I will never forget those eyes in my lifetime. When I finished my story, the two customers were looking down. The conversation had turned out to be much heavier than I expected. I had never told anyone the story before. It was the first time I shared the details, and even I was surprised. I must still be carrying it with me. "Sorry, I didn't mean to make the conversation so heavy. This one's on the house, so please have a drink," I said. I selected a fine wine from within the bar and poured it into their glasses. The woman thanked me, and with her slender, white hands, she took a sip from the glass. After finishing the drink in one gulp, she sighed lightly and looked at me. "And have you never met her since then?" I nodded. "I don't deserve to. Not to Amy, not to Lisa. I must have caused them so much trouble," I said. Hearing this, she looked at me with pleading eyes. "I think your daughter wants to see you," she said. I averted my gaze from her earnest look. "She was separated from me when she was just a baby. She doesn't even know me. It's impossible for her to feel the desire to see me." I made snacks while feeling somewhat awkward about the conversation. The man quietly asked, "Had you been paying child support?" I replied while preparing the snacks. "That's about all I could do. I made sure to send it every month. There were times when the bar was in trouble. During those times, I even worked part-time during the day to make the payments." It's ironic, isn't it? Right after my daughter was born, I couldn't wake up during the day to take care of her or help my wife, but I could do a day job. Thinking back, I feel so pathetic for not having tried harder then. I wondered why I was sharing such deep thoughts with this couple I had just met. I had never exposed my feelings like this before. But somehow, I found myself naturally opening up to this affectionate couple. Glancing at the woman, I noticed her eyes were slightly teary. "So listen, buddy, if you have a child, take good care of them. Don't drink. The tough times are only temporary. But whether you support each other during those times can change your married life. I've seen it with every customer. Whenever I saw customers getting drunk who said they have a newborn child, I always kicked them out. It wasn't really redemption, but it was for the sake of the customer, their child, and their wife. I encouraged them to go home early. I wanted this man to take good care of the beautiful woman beside him. That's why I gave them advice. Actually, it seems my daughter is getting married." I muttered softly. The two of them widened their eyes a bit. "I got a wedding invitation. Surprisingly, Amy must have given out my address." The man asked. "How did you respond?" I grimaced. "I'm definitely not attending." The woman let out a surprised gasp. "Why not? If she sent an invitation, doesn't that mean she wants to see you?" I was taken aback by her somewhat emotional outburst. "How dare I come? I don't even know what my daughter looks like, what school she went to, or any memories of taking her out. All I remember is a crying baby. How could someone like me have the right to attend? It would be unfair to Amy, after raising her alone for 25 years. For me to show up at her daughter's important wedding with a smile on my face, it would be cruel to Amy." The woman finally broke down in tears. Perhaps her emotions were heightened because she was about to get married herself. I felt terrible. The man spoke quietly. "But if you received an invitation, maybe your ex-wife wants you to come. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given your address, right? Amy was a kind woman. If our daughter wanted it, she would give out the address. But I shouldn't take advantage of her kindness so easily." "You're stubborn," the woman muttered with tear-streaked eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry. I'll cover your drinks and food today. I'm truly sorry for dampening the mood when you came out to enjoy yourselves." As I apologized, the two of them shook their heads. "Please don't let us leave without paying for such delicious food and drinks. That would be too rude." Saying that, they stood up and headed towards the cash register. I sighed, "Let me offer a little service at least," and went to the register to complete the transaction. At the entrance, they turned back and said goodbye. As I responded with a thank you, the woman looked intently at me. Seeing my puzzled look, she repeated, "Please make sure to meet," then pursed her lips, turned on her heel, and left. What a situation! It's hard to dismiss someone when they ask so earnestly with such an expression. Even though they probably wouldn't know if I didn't go, the thought of betraying that female customer made me hesitant. Despite never intending to meet her in my lifetime, it seems I spoke a bit too deeply. Why did I reveal so much? Was it because that female customer reminded me a bit of Amy? It felt like I was confessing to Amy, talking nonstop. Maybe I should go see her, I muttered to myself while cleaning up. Then, I noticed a small handkerchief left on a chair. Is this something left behind? When I picked it, an envelope fell out. Seeing the envelope, my eyes widened. It was a wedding invitation. The same color as the one I had carefully stored away in a drawer. Trembling, I opened it, and there was no doubt it was an invitation from Lisa. The second one must be returned with "will attend. The handkerchief is very precious to me, so please return it to me directly. Tomorrow is your day off, right? I'll be waiting at my mother's house," it read. I rushed outside the bar, but there was no one in sight. In the freezing cold, I stood in front of the bar, tears streaming down my face. The next day, I was on the bullet train. That woman was my daughter, Lisa. Why didn't I realize it? I thought she resembled Amy. Despite her desperate plea for me to meet my daughter, why didn't I make the connection to Lisa? Was it because it was so unthinkable to me that I looked away? Even after talking so much, I didn't realize she was my own daughter, even though we had parted when she was just a baby. Maybe I really don't deserve to meet her. My thoughts were jumbled as the 2 hours passed quickly, and I arrived at the station nearest to Amy's parents' house. As I got closer to Amy's parents' house, my heart started to beat faster. It was the same back then. 25 years ago, on the day Amy left. I'm walking down the same road I ran down that day, but my steps are slow now. I'm torn between wanting to see them and not wanting to. My emotions are in turmoil, and I focus only on walking. Eventually, I arrived at Amy's parents' house. The intercom I pressed with trembling hands 25 years ago was still the same. It was a bit older, but I pressed the same intercom with trembling hands again. I could hear footsteps inside. I felt an urge to run away right then. The hurried footsteps grew louder, and the door opened. There stood Lisa, the female customer who had cried and pleaded the day before, greeting me with a broad smile. "You finally came." Behind Lisa, the man who had visited the bar with her, and then, "Amy, I'm sorry." I apologized to Amy, who was standing there with a smile. As I was ushered into the living room, Lisa handed me a piece of paper first. "This is really terrible." The paper bore the flourish of my handwriting. The paper I had enclosed in the response envelope for the invitation. "I do not deserve to attend the wedding. Please be happy," it read in a single line. Trying to be cool with "I don't deserve." What does that even mean? If I invited you, of course, you deserve it. She said with a much firmer stance than her demure appearance from yesterday, making me break out in a cold sweat. It was the man who calmed the indignant Lisa. Her fiancé, Ryan. Well, you said it on the way back on the bullet train, didn't you? It's cool to be unwavering in your beliefs. With a troubled expression, he admonished her, and Lisa turned to Ryan with vigor. After that, I added, "but too stubborn, right?" Embarrassed by the unexpected revelation of her true feelings, Lisa's face turned bright red as she protested. Then, Amy came in with tea. "Hey, let's calm down," she said as she placed tea down and took a seat, expressing deep gratitude towards me. "Thank you for the child support you've consistently provided for 20 years. It helped us live without financial struggles, and I was able to send our daughter to college." I looked up to see Amy's face. Despite the years and increased wrinkles, her beauty remained intact. She retained a youthfulness that was hard to imagine from the last worn-out image I had of Amy. Raising a child isn't just about money. It's about dealing with tantrums, helping with studies, sharing her worries, attending events, cooking every day. I dumped all aspects of parenting on Amy. Stop thanking me when all I did was provide money, I said, apologizing. Lisa, seeing this, mocked us. In the end, you two are so alike. Caught off guard by her comment, I was puzzled, and Amy blushed. Mom tried to go to the bar a few times, she said. Surprised by this new information, I instinctively looked at Amy. Amy tried desperately to stop her, but Lisa continued regardless. She would take me all the way there and then say, I can't do this, or if only I hadn't said I wish that bar didn't exist, and I don't deserve to enter this bar, before turning back. Well, it was like a little trip for me, so I enjoyed it. Both of you always going on about I don't deserve. You're really so much alike. Lisa teased with a bashful air, and Amy and I exchanged glances. Amy, I can't believe you actually went to the bar. Amy frowned at that, and Lisa stuck out her tongue playfully. I thought about introducing myself at first, but you were hesitating so much. I wanted you to come to the wedding on your own, Dad. Not because I insisted. I guess I got a little greedy. Ryan gave her a smile at Lisa's words. I even planned for the scenario where I wouldn't introduce myself, with a handkerchief, envelope, and letter all prepared. She said unabashedly with a grin. Well prepared, right? Lisa turned to me, almost jumping in surprise. It was because I was crying. What's wrong? I'm sorry. Was I too pushy? Despite Lisa's panic, the tears wouldn't stop flowing from my eyes. Unable to speak, all I could do was shake my head. From Lisa's lips came the word Dad. The natural way it came out made me sob uncontrollably. I shouldn't be worthy of such a word. Yet, I swallowed those thoughts. I know that Lisa would scold me again. Amid Lisa and Ryan's frantic voices, Amy's was silent. She probably understood why I was crying and smiled at me. Thanks to Amy's hard work, Lisa grew up to be such a wonderful daughter. I was profoundly grateful for that. Time passed, and the day of the wedding arrived. After reuniting with Amy and Lisa, life became incredibly busy. I greeted Ryan's parents and made the rounds to greet relatives invited to the wedding. Time, which had stood still for so long, suddenly started flowing all at once. I spent my days immersed in this newfound rush. And the day of the wedding was no less hectic. I got ready in the morning, made rounds of greetings at the ceremony venue, and went around serving drinks at the reception. Amid the whirlwind of activity, I felt a tinge of loneliness. After the wedding, the pretext for meeting Amy and Lisa would disappear. After all, I hadn't been involved in their lives up to this point. It would be presumptuous to expect more. However, I glanced at Amy sitting beside me. Dressed elegantly in a blue dress, she looked serene and happy as she looked at the bride and groom's table. Her beauty was still striking. The desire to live again with Amy swelled within me, even though I knew it was an impossible wish. As I was lost in thought, a staff member from the venue approached me. The bride and groom were to read a letter to their parents. I wanted to decline, but after receiving a stern look from Amy, I reluctantly moved to the designated spot. Being watched by so many people was nerve-wracking. Lisa and Ryan looked affectionately at each other, smiling. Lisa unfolded the letter. Gratitude was expressed to Amy, who shed a few tears. Seeing this, I was deeply moved. Suddenly, Lisa called me Dad, startling me. Thank you for supporting us financially all these years. When I heard you took up part-time jobs to send the child support even when your bar was struggling, I was touched. As one ages, tears come more easily. Lisa remembered the story I had shared the first day she visited the bar. I silently thanked her in my heart as she continued. Dad, Mom, I think it's time for both of you to be honest with your feelings. She said so, and Amy and I looked at Lisa with tearful eyes. I know both of you might say you don't deserve again. At that point, Lisa's words faltered. Her voice turned tearful, and she couldn't continue her sentence. Ryan tried to comfort her, but it only made Lisa cry more. I want you to make up for the time lost because of me being a difficult child. What a thing to say. That's not right. Before I knew it, I had shouted out. I had raised my voice inappropriately at a celebratory occasion. To make you think such a thing, I'm sorry. Truly sorry. It's all my fault for being inadequate. It's not your fault at all. Babies cry. That's just how it is. Before I could finish, Lisa stuck out her tongue, tears still in her eyes. Then be happy from now on. Somewhere in my heart, I was a little sad that I couldn't be the bond between you two. Now, let me be that bond. Let me be Cupid. Children are the ties that bind. Thanks to our daughter Lisa, Amy and I have reconnected and are being held together now. I smiled gently at Lisa and nodded. Seeing this, Amy also nodded deeply. That day, Amy and I officially restarted our relationship. 10 years have passed since then. Taste this for me. When I called out to Amy, she chuckled. There's no need for a taste test, right? Feeling a bit anxious, if I serve something terrible on such a special birthday, I might end up being disliked. Amy, laughing, tasted it and showed her thumbs up. It's really delicious. Everyone will love it. Today is the birthday of Lisa and Ryan's eldest son. Lisa has given birth to and is raising 3 children. Each time we meet, I'm impressed by how strong a mother she has become. The 2 older boys are full of mischief, making mealtimes chaotic. For every celebration, they come to my bar. Of course, I covered the cost. After Lisa and Ryan's wedding, Amy and I continued our relationship smoothly, formalizing it by getting married a year later, and Amy moved in with me. She's also been helping out at the bar. The regulars have teased us quite a bit. Can't believe you had such a beautiful wife hidden away. Whether we're preparing to shop, during business hours, or cleaning up, every moment is filled with happiness. When Amy and I divorced back then, if I hadn't given up, no, if I had supported Amy from much earlier, perhaps there would have been another happiness. But I can't go back to that time. We savor the happiness we have now and move forward. Sometimes we have little arguments. Even those feel precious to me now. Perhaps because I'm grinning while preparing, Amy peeks over. We're happy, aren't we? She said, and I nodded with a smile. It's all thanks to you, Lisa and Ryan. She smiled. I want to protect this smile and never let it go again. Just as I made that vow in my heart, the door to the shop opened, and our grandchildren burst in energetically. Today, the shop is reserved just for us. A precious day where happiness fills the entire place. Amy and I welcomed Lisa's family with smiles.